You don't have to hold it. It doesn't actually have
I'll just, good deal.
Do you like to think of yourself as being highly judgmental and that you jump to conclusions with very little evidence? No. John does. How about the rest of you? Did you know that in less than a second, people have decided whether they like you or not? And did you know that in less than 7 seconds, they've made 11 sweeping judgments about who you are? And that those judgments will change their perceptions of you forever? And did you know that 26% of the likelihood that you're going to get appointed as a lead on your team or get a promotion is based not on the quality of your work and not on the results that you get and not on your Marvin Gaye voice, but on the perception that your boss has of you, of your presence. So imagine that you could take a system that would, if you learned it, would increase your confidence and competence that you project to others, and that could elevate by up to 100%. Barbara Walters said that it is not overly dramatic to say that your destiny hangs on the impression you make. So you don't have to imagine that. That's what we're talking about today. That's what I'm going to share with you. That's what Rhonda is going to share with you. And this system is closer than you know. Now, you guys work with an operating system, don't you? You guys, some of us, I'm an Apple person, so I work with OS. There's Windows. You guys are VOS or ZOS or blah, crazy stuff, right? But every operating system has its rules, right? Its capabilities, things that it's really good at, things that it's got some limitation on. So it's got a system. So we've got a system, and we've been working with it. You've been working with it as long as you've been around, and I've been studying it for 26 years. And that's the human operating system. So when I talked about being judgmental, we come from 84,000 generations of hunter and gatherers. And we lived in tribes of no more than 150 up until a very short period of time in that. So if you're at your tribe, you're at your campfire, right? And you see somebody coming towards you that you don't necessarily know who they are, what's the first thing you're going to notice about them?
Their appearance.
Their appearance, right. And you're going to notice, what might you deduce from their appearance? What aspect of their appearance are you going to notice first?
Their clothes, whether they look dangerous or not.
Yes, exactly right, Chris. You're going to look at their clothes and you're going to determine what tribe they're in, aren't you? That's going to tell you that. So we still work on that aspect. It's so hardwired into us that Gina said that you're not going to be judged on what you look like or what you're wearing, but subconsciously we can't get away from that. Now, if you asked somebody, did I judge Rebecca's speech on the shirt she was wearing, they're going to say, of course not. Rebecca's lovely. I wouldn't base on her clothing attire, but they're wrong because we just do that naturally. We need to know what tribe you're in. And also you said if they're dangerous or they're strong, right? Because we are actually all the time, even women, we're looking at somebody saying, dark alley. I take him, he's going to take me. We're constantly gauging that. So we're looking at how people hold themselves all the time. So this system that I'm going to share with you, if you don't use it, that's what's happening. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You're literally, Rhonda gave you those cards, those awesome cards that were read to you before you came up here to do a speech. In psychology, we call that priming. Now you are constantly communicating and priming your audience to either accept or reject what you're about to say. And the impact it made is significant. As I said, it will impact their impression of you. And you never get a second chance at what? Exactly. So as you are about to present to people who have an impact and influence over your career here at Pacific Life, right? These are people that you want to make an impression on so that they remember you and they have a good memory of that. You're going to want to attend to all those aspects so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot there, okay? So that's what we're going to go over right now. Now, this human operating system, information about this human operating system has been leaked to you and leaked to society for thousands of years. In fact, it's special secret knowledge. And it's been told to you by high priestesses that you did not recognize as the keepers of these secrets. So I'm going to tell you about that. Do you want to know? It's very mysterious. It's like kind of Indiana Jones-ish. It's your mother. How many of you had a mother? None of you are laughing. Ron the only one that laughed. I thought that was a pretty funny slide. You do not think that's funny? Okay, I'm going to have to rework this. How many of you had your mother? Brian, did your mother ever tell you to sit up straight?
Probably, yeah.
Yes. Anybody's mother tell them that frequently?
All the time.
All the time. Well, you're a tall woman, right? So you probably had a tendency not to want to stand up tall because the male folks hadn't gotten quite as tall as you were when you were young. I had that same experience. I was 6th grade. I was taller and sadly heavier than any other person in the school, because I know that because I know what the girls weighed and were tall, and they wrote the guys all down. They did a wrestling scenario, and so they wrote the weight categories, and I'm looking at and just like completely mortified, right, that I'm taller and heavier than any of them. So yes, you adopted certain postures, but this sitting up straight is hugely important, and I'm going to share with you why. Okay, that's what many of you look like at the end of the day. Maybe not even at the end of the day, maybe at the beginning of the day. Maybe most of your waking hours, because humans now in North America, we talked about percentage of communication. What percentage do you think that the average person in the United States sits? How much of their day?
Yeah.
At least 85.
Yeah. Well, they say statistically it's 70, but they're wrong, right? And certainly in this room. Because if you guys are not sitting at the computer either coding or analyzing, I'm going to take a wild guess that some of you game and you're sitting in front of your computers, or you're on Facebook. Nobody in that corner, right? No, that would be silly to sit more.
No.
Yeah, so we're sitting all the time. Now, before you go on stage, well, let me back up. Do you think the first time that you're going to be judged when you're giving your presentation is the moment you get on stage? When are you going to start getting looked at, Rebecca?
Probably just when people arrive in the room.
Because they're going to know who you are, right? They're going to know you're the newbies, so they're going to be like eyeballing you. And then what are you going to be doing before you get on stage? Yes, you're going to be sitting, right? So because you sit 80 gamer men, maybe 85% of your waking hours, or maybe more, maybe 90%. Do you think it's important to learn how to sit correctly? Okay, so we're going to go over that first. And I have a rule that throughout this presentation, I'm going to be the one that looks ridiculous first, because learning how to sit correctly, you kind of look ridiculous when you're learning how to do it. It's so far from what this guy is. But this is how we kind of devolve in our seating. So we're going to learn how to do that. So I'm going to go through this. I am going to look goofy. Please just go with it and try not to judge me too much, because you will soon look goofy.
Be open.
Yes, be open. So in order to how to sit correctly, we're going to have to keep 3 curves in our spine. Now when we sit, I'm going to go over the evolution of this, why it's important, but when we sit, we have a tendency to do what this guy does and create kind of a shape like that, right? Now, that man does not have 3 curves in his spine. He has one single curve that looks like the letter C, doesn't it? It's called a C curve. So we're going to try and avoid that. So the way to do that is you're going to put your calves up against these chairs. Then you're going to sit bend your knees and put your hands on your thighs, okay? So this is the looks goofy part. You're gonna sit like, hold your hand like this, and then you're gonna stick your booty out, okay? I call this getting bootylicious. So here's where we're starting the goofiness part, right? So you're gonna stick your booty out. So imagine if you had one of those tattoos there. You're gonna, and it was an eagle. It's gonna be an eagle taking off. It's gonna fly. That would give you a good visual, John. So you'll never forget this. Okay. So your eagle needs to take off. Okay? Yes. So in order to make your eagle take off, you actually contract those muscles right there, which will elevate your eagle into grand flight over the Grand Canyon. Okay? So you're going to bend your knees, and then you're going to tighten up that muscle right there. Eagle's flying. Then what you're going to do is you're going to maintain that position and put your hands here, and you're going to slide your booty all the way back down to the back of your chair, and you're going to stay forward. And that will help keep that curve in your low back. So you're kind of laying your belly on your legs and your chest is coming forward, okay? And then you're gonna come up like this. And you're gonna feel very awkward to begin with. Chris, you've been an athlete, so you probably actually have more of a curve and would sit that way if you hadn't gotten cultured out of it. But
He sits like that.
yes,
He does.
he does, okay.
Yeah, and
All right, so
spring in your left foot.
yes.
Watch your body.
We're learning a lot of new things here.
Exactly.
All right,
So the
you're-
alignment is kind
Yes.
of, what are we looking at
so
from the
what we're
side?
looking at is that you're going to have a nice curve in your low back. Your shoulders are going to be over your hips, and your head is going to be over your shoulder. Okay? So I'm going to have you all stand up now. We're going to do that. All right. So calves against the chair. Yes, you can do a little stretching ahead of time, Brian.
That's right.
Calves against the chair. You're going to bend your knees and put your hands on your thighs, and then you're going to have your eagle take off. So you're going to, no, you're way too fast, John. All right, so you're going to sit there and you're going to arch and stick your booty out. You're going to put your hands on the chair. You're going to slide down the back of the chair, and you're going to stay here, bend at the hips. Okay, now you're going to push yourself up. Good.
Harder
So
for us short people.
Yes, if the chair is too deep here, it's very hard, so you won't be able to get yourself back to the end of the chair. So you may end up having to kind of be that way at the front of the chair, okay? So now this looks ridiculous, or it may look ridiculous to you, it may feel ridiculous to you, but let me have you do this. Put your hands like this in front of you. Okay, that feels normal, right? Now I want you to switch it up. Move your fingers. That feels weird, doesn't it? Okay, now go back. Okay, now let's do that one more time. Shift it again, John. Good. Now, does that feel maybe a little less awkward? Okay, that's similar to sitting in the chair. So when you first sit like this, it feels very awkward because you, at one time or another, have probably catch yourself sitting similar to that. And you're about to start doing a lot of sitting, and maybe you already have, hard to say, even 90 to 92% more. The problem with this is that it actually will cause you to have posture that will interfere with your health, with your ability to problem solve, with your imagination, with your longevity. People who sit like that actually die earlier. They actually don't think as well. They get sick. And so I'm trying to help you not only have more presence so that when you get on stage in front of people, you go from a sitting to standing with poise and elegance, but actually that you live longer. Okay? So this is really important. All
So
right.
I'd like to ask the group, so when you look around and see everyone sitting like this, compared to what you might see kind of slumping in a chair, what goes through your mind when you look at people?
They're a lot taller than I thought.
They look taller. Does it say anything about, do they look like, hey, they're like feeling really confident and
They look more
More
competent.
look
on
more
edge.
confident? We make the jump to confidence based on just our perception.
Well, that's why I was going. I want people thinking.
So when you're coming in, you want to, when you're sitting, they're going to be looking at you, so think about how you're sitting.
Yeah, so that's why we're telling you, because before you get up on stage, you're going to be in a chair. And it's important that people are going to notice you from the moment they or you walk in that room. So as you sit there, if you look at announcers on television, sports announcers, you don't see them on their bar stools like this, do you? They're sitting like this. They're sitting upright because that gives that feeling of power and confidence. And if you're a sportscaster or you're an athlete, you're judged on how powerful you are, aren't you? That's like the epitome of power, is to have an athletic performance. So many of them are ex-athletes, and so they stand like that, or newscasters stand like that, because that gives us that sense of credibility. And here's the fascinating thing. It actually changes your neurochemistry too. So it produces the hormones that make you feel confident and feel less stressed. So Rhonda's going to go over that, exactly how to tag in on that. But it also will have you have less back pain, because I can tell you, this guy is going to have a lot of pain in his neck, his upper back, and his middle back. He'll end up having carpal tunnel. He'll have a lot of problems because it's not the design of human being. It's not part of the operating system. You are pushing those tolerances way too far. All right, so today, oh yes, sorry.
So what about, like, my tendency is more, I like lumbar support, so I like to get my back up against something, but I like to lean back a little bit.
Yes. Well,
Is that
that's a
detrimental?
great question, John. So the goal, in fact, why don't I just do that
That's
right
where I
now?
feel most
and I'll
comfortable.
answer that question for you, because it really is a good question, and it's the good news, bad news part of it. So there's an evolution of your spine. So what I want you all to do is take out a piece of paper, because this is one of those points that is actually going to change your life if you follow this, okay? I want you to take out a piece of paper, and in the top left-hand corner, I want you to draw a circle like that. Okay. Now, when we are children, when we're in the womb, our spines, we look like this, right? Like that is, what's this, what is this position called?
Fetal.
Yeah, we're in the fetal position, right? So we have this curve right here in our spine. Now draw another circle next to it. All right, have many of you have little brothers, or have any of you have kids? So John, you have a kid. When you, Chris, or Paul, Bradley, Craig, Carol.
No one knows about it.
That's the thing no one knew.
Chris, when you were first holding your baby, could your baby hold its head up?
Actually don't know that part.
Oh, you don't know that part.
I adopted.
Oh, you did?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So have any of you ever had nieces, nephews, or seen little babies? Or have you ever been a baby?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. You're saving me from that John thing. So babies, when we come out of the womb, we do not have any muscle control in our neck. It's like bobbleheads. And if you've seen babies, moms are very cautious about holding their head so they don't flop over to the side. We don't have that muscle tone or the nervous system yet. So when babies first learn to hold their head up, they go from this kind of a curve to having that kind of a curve in their neck. Okay, so I want you to draw that in your ball, in your sphere. Okay? But the rest of their curves are like that. So they're lying on the ground and they're learning to hold their head up. Now, do one more curve right here. When we learn how to sit up correctly, if you've ever seen a picture of infants, they have immaculate posture. They have a curve in their neck. They've got this curve stays the same in their middle back, but then they develop this curve in their low back, like that. So it looks like an S with a squiggle, okay? And that is actually called an S curve. That's an S, and that's a C. So this is the design, and these are the specifications for the human operating system devoted to spine. So as long as you're a human being living on planet Earth under gravity, that's the spine that you should have, because that's the natural design of the human system, okay? Now, let me ask you this. Have any of you taken any acting classes or been in a drama class? John, okay. Would you come up and be a example for me?
Darn.
Okay.
Just kept quiet.
Yes, so I'm going to ask you to do some Shakespeare for us.
To be
No.
or not to
Now
be?
is the winter of our discontent.
See, he has the voice for it, for sure.
You do. John, I'm going to have you face that direction. Now, what I want you to do, I'm going to have you get into character. And if you were portraying for these folks, you don't get to speak. You're just going to show me the body language of somebody who was in fear. What would they do with their shoulders? They were, yes, keep going. Now exaggerate it. Yeah. No, stay right there. Okay. So, and exaggerate it like, so if I'm in the back row and I'm kind of have cataracts, I would really know because your posture's so exaggerated. So really exaggerate it for me right now. Yes. So you're kind of like shoulders rolled forward. You're kind of like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good. Excellent. Let's all give John a round. Okay. Academy Award will be on. Okay. So he's kind of like that, right? And what if I were to put a computer screen here, like that? That looks a lot like that C curve, doesn't it? So what do you think is happening in how people view you and the chemicals in your own brain when you are like this at a computer all day?
Sometimes I am afraid, though.
Yes, it's true. But you're actually reinforcing the fear, and it's a downward cycle because your body is telling your brain that there is a threat somewhere in your environment. So your body has now gone into a fear position, even though you're just being lazy and sitting on your chair. And, sorry.
And I'm going to add a statistic,
Yes.
because in the neuroscience and how our brain works, our brain sees threats as 5 times more powerful than any reward response or any positive response. So when you're getting that threat response, that negative response, 5 times more powerful on what's going to happen in your ability to think, make decisions, come across.
Yes, and here's why this happens. And the reason I'm taking the time and I'm wanting you to draw this is because drawing is part of that human operating system. And it's going to get into your brains. When you see that, you're going to go, oh my God, Dr. Cynthia, you're going to hear my voice in the back of your head. I'm going to program you. You're going to hear my voice. David, if I had your voice, you're going to hear my voice in the back of your head saying, sit up straight. All right, so here's how it works. So how many of you watched, this is the right room to ask this question. How many of you watched the Matrix? Yes, all right. Now, do you remember how Neo had all those little ports on him? Yes. On his back, on his spine? He had them all a lot of joints, actually. And we have the same thing. We just call them nerves. They're called proprioceptive nerves. We have these little ports over all of our joints, our muscles, ligaments, tendons, our organs. And those nerves are sending a message to our brain continuously 24/7, and it is telling the brain where our joints are in space, how much pressure is on our organ system, how much pressure is on our joints and our knees and everything. So our brain then uses that information, and what it does is it produces brain juice. It's a highly technical term that I went to college to learn. Brain juice. So we know brain juice as neurotransmitters. You've heard of dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and GABA, like all these different brain juices. And that, how many of you have been to Mongolian barbecue? Mongolian barbecue. Okay, so at Mongolian barbecue, what do they do with the sauce, David? Do you remember? At the end, when you put the sauce in your
Thank you. It's been a while. I love all
over
that.
your bowl.
Yeah. Okay. So in Mongolian barbecue, it's the greatest thing because you get to get all these vegetables and you put it on your plate and they give you some meat and then you put whatever vegetable you want and then they're going to saute it for you. Okay. So at the end, after you've got your, and I am proud to say I am a master of the Mongolian barbecue plate. I can get so much on mine. It's crazy. because my family is taller than me, so I always have to share with the giants in my family. So you put it all on. I've got this giant plate, giant bowl, and then at the end they've got like 4 different little canisters that you can put sauce in it. And that changes the flavor of it. So one is curry sauce, one is spicy, not hot, one is an oil, and then one is like cayenne peppers. So you can make whatever ultimate nuanced flavor you want from those little pots. The brain is the same. So the brain juice might be serotonin, it might be dopamine, it might be GABA. You have all these little pots, and the combination of those will give you the sensation and the emotions that you are experiencing at any given moment. You follow me along so far? Okay, so you have your Neo's little ports right here that are sending information to your brain. Your brain then takes those pots and calculates just the right ratio for your secret sauce and makes that brain juice. And then what happens is that produces in you a feeling, an emotion. Then you have a sensation, a cognition, a feeling. You're happy. Rebecca, you're feeling very happy right now. Let's just say you are. How would your brain know that you are looking at something that's making you happy? What would you do with your face to tell your brain that you're happy?
The different muscles that are
Yes. And which muscles would you use to tell your brain that you're happy?
like tightening and pulling back.
Exactly. Exactly. So you have these little ports in these muscles, and when they fire off, the brain goes, oh, happy. There's something in the world that's happy. So it goes both ways. You feel happy, and you do, show me what you look like when you feel happy. Yeah. Yeah, so Rebecca's happy. We know she's happy because she's smiling. The happy thought produced the smile, but then also the smiling then produces happy juice. So it produces an emotion, and then that emotion, just like if it's in a mirror, that emotion is reflected back to the physiology. So this system is working all the time. So that's why if you sit like this, or you reproduce what John so eloquently showed us in a fearful pose, you will actually produce anxiety hormones. Anybody have any stress last week?
No.
Yeah. John's the only one? Yes. Okay. So stress is basically fear in a good pair of shoes. Stress is fear, and we just politically call it stress instead of fear. But this is a position that will both provoke it in you and perpetuate it and is a reflection of it. So you can't be sitting like that. So, and this is why that works in that way. All right, so what we're going to talk about now, so you're going to last about a minute with sitting correctly, and then you're going to hear my voice in the back of your head, and you'll see your picture, and then it'll go like that, the transformer kind of movement, and then you'll sit back up. The more time you spend sitting correctly, the happier your brain is. The longer you live, the more dates you get.
So back to my question.
So your question, thank you. Oh, duh. Yes. Okay. So your question is, if you are sitting and you want 3 curves in your spine, and you're leaning back like that, if you have your monitors up here, which there are a lot of gamers actually who do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which if you're going to spend a lot of time doing the gaming in addition to sitting, then do that. But if your monitors are not here, and your actually monitors are here, in order to see this monitor, I have to go like that with my neck. So which kind of a curve am I getting in my neck?
Not a good one.
Not a good one. You're getting a fetal position curve.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes you can. So hence, when you're sitting at your desk, you want to have your monitors at the same level as your eyes, so that you're not tilting your head down. Because there's a great Charlie Brown cartoon, and there's a picture of him with his head down like that. And Lucy says, "What's wrong with you, Charlie Brown?" He says, "Oh, well, I'm feeling depressed, and the only way you can really enjoy being depressed is if you stand like this." And that's true, right? So this is a position that you've kind of lost all your energy and you're depressed. And if you're also afraid, then you're going to tilt your head up to be able to look at your environment, but you're still going to be like this, covering yourself up, the fig leaf, like over figged, right? So you don't want that head down. You want that head tilted up. All right.
So in sitting just in your offices, just at your desks, or if you're at home on the seats, what might be a recommendation to help support that?
Great. So if you were, in fact, Rhonda, I'll show you. Why don't you go ahead and have a seat right here for me? And this is probably too tall.
It is. I know. It's like they don't kind of. They don't get.
Okay.
My back doesn't go all the way.
Back doesn't go all the way. So for
Or the feet don't go all the way down.
All right, so what you could do to maintain that, the goal is for you ultimately to have the muscle tone and the brain to be able to hold it yourself. But until you get there, you can stick a pillow right here to reinforce that. Sometimes, like for you guys,
Shorter people.
it's called the pan of the chair might be too long for your legs, so you can put a pillow there too, in addition to behind your back, or you can request a different chair. You know, sometimes they'll accommodate you with that. You also, if you have, if it's too small, you can put another pillow here in the middle of your back, so that kind of pushes this forward. So you can do that. And you're right about the lumbar support, John. Really critical. So you can do those kinds of things. Then, when you're setting up your workstation, you want your arms at 90 degrees here, okay? And then you want your eyes straight ahead. And one of the things about this is presence. The beautiful thing and why it works in the human operating system is that the things that give you presence and have other people look at you as you're confident and competent and you're in control, it's the same rules that increase your capacity as a human, that make you healthier. It's all lockstep, and that's the beautiful thing. You're not like trying to contrive, or I'm super powerful, and not be powerful. You actually are more powerful when you're in that position. All right, so we're going to talk right now. That's what we're going to talk about. Presence. Because if there's one thing that will give you a leg up, if the butterflies are still not in formation, if you can't remember your words, if we don't have the voice of David and John, the thing that will increase your ability to make an impression and have people like you, and as Rhonda said, they gotta like you before they want to listen to you, that is how you hold yourself and your presence. So if you can only remember one thing, let's do that. So presence, I want you to take another sheet of paper or somewhere, and I want you to cut it into 4 pieces. So a vertical line down the middle, and then cut that in half. 4 boxes. Yes, 4 quadrants. You can put it on your presentation thing too. On your
the back of the.
on the back of So on the first box on the top left, I want you to write the word power. And right next to that, I want you to write the word warmth, and then in the box next to it. And below that, I want you to write the word focus. And below that, in the next box, I want you to write the word gravitas. So these, when we study it scientifically, and presence and charisma have been studied scientifically, this is basically what it breaks down to. And we as individuals want to have a combo of all 4 of those. So if you had 0 to 10, I want you to rate yourself in each of those boxes. How powerful you look, how warm you look, how people perceive you, how focused you can be when you're standing up in front. And gravitas is how much you know. You know, if somebody asks you a question, Teresa, can you answer that about what you're doing? Do you feel like you're competent and you have the information that you need? Or as Rhonda said, you know how to get it. So that's that gravitas, that piece, where they're credible. So I want you to rate yourself in each of those categories. And write that down. 1 to 10. Yes. And don't overthink this. But leave a little bit of room so that you can use a regular pencil and take some notes on what you might be able to do specifically to increase those areas. All right, so take a look at this gal and answer these questions for me. Which one would you listen to more, David?
Obviously, it's the one on the right.
Yeah. And who's going to be more inspiring to you?
Definitely the one on the right is inspired.
And who would you like as your boss? Would you like your boss to come into like a meeting like this? Hey, we got a new initiative coming up. I'm so excited about it.
I don't think I would like that.
It's going to be awesome. Just do what I say. Yeah. And oddly enough, but if somebody, two things. If a person is on stage and they're speaking to you like this, and or you are sitting like that, you will get 30% less of the information. So yeah, you're not going to remember what they say if you're sitting like that, or if you're watching somebody like that. All right, so first one is power. So if you want to portray power, you have to use the elements of power. The first one is how we hold our body. Now, this is a picture of a famous king. It's I don't know. It's probably Henry VIII.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So if you look, any of you ever take any art history classes? Okay. Do you remember if you look at many of the Renaissance portraits, the people, whoever it is, if it's a comte or it's a queen or a king, they're all sitting with immaculate posture.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, the portraits that they had commissioned were actually PR pieces, often. So they wanted to portray themselves in the most powerful way because they didn't have internet. They had people would come and they would position these portraits in public areas, and very often they would actually position themselves and paint themselves as Greek gods or goddesses. They'd have them in ancient scenes, and they would have the face of Henry VIII as Zeus. So this was all PR. So they portrayed themselves as super powerful. So that's what we're going to teach you right now. You're going to be able to position yourself as very powerful. And these are the things that we're going to talk about. So we're going to use these buckets, a bowling ball, a booty, and a Chinese finger trap. All right, so here we look at the spine. The first one is the Chinese finger trap. And how many of you, when you were growing up, your parents used to mark in the doorway how tall you were? Do you remember that? Okay. So what did you do to get tall? Yes. You like, Chris, come over here and show me what you did. So face them. Good. And now stand how you normally stand. Perfect. Okay. Now, if you were going to get $1,000, if you could touch the top of your head to my hand, what would you do? You're suddenly taller, right? It's a lot like, and what happens to your belly when you do that? What do you notice?
Suck in.
Yeah, it naturally sucks in, doesn't it? And that's what you can go ahead. Let's give Kristen. So it's like the Chinese finger traps. You guys remember those that you got at Halloween? That you kind of pull them, and when you pull them, what happens to the middle?
Goes in.
Yeah, it sucks in. And that's the nature of a human spine. So when we get tall, our belly sucks in. And if we want to get tall, we have to suck our belly in. So that creates that impression of height. And not just impression, it actually creates our height. So I want you to think of, you get $1,000 for every inch that you get taller. But actually it's not $1,000. It's $780 more per year for every inch you are over average. And
It's not good for us short people.
Pardon?
No, it's not good for us short people.
No, but here's the thing. I am working with here's the interesting aspect that I'm working with a gal who is a seminar leader, and she does seminars all over the country, works with lots of big companies. And since I started working with her, she just went and had a physical, and she's only 5'2". So she wears these giant platform heels, and we always have a conversation about that. But she just had a physical, and the doctor told her she was 5'3".
She grew.
She literally did grow, because the difference in height between this which doesn't look that horrific, right? I mean, you wouldn't say, oh my God, what's wrong with that woman? Well, you might, but maybe not because of how my posture is. So if I'm standing like this, which is probably not even as bad as the woman in the last picture, and I go and stand like that, it's probably an inch to 2 inch difference in height. So it's all about the perceptions, not even necessarily the reality of it. And you guys are doing such a good job trying to maintain that posture. I am really proud of you. That's except John, you're just
John.
You're going back there.
I'm leaning back a little bit.
You're leaning back.
I'm
Okay.
keeping my vision with you.
It's because you're tall.
That's right. That's right.
That's
I like
right.
that. That's good. But you know what? You brought up a really good point, even as I'm teasing you, which is really being dexterous on your feet there. When somebody is talking to you, or you're at your desk, you want your monitor everything in front of you. So if you're going to be sitting here for a long time, like Jolene, I would have you turn your body, because otherwise you're going to spend hours going like that, right? So you don't want to be in that position. So you brought up a really good point. You're facing me this direction. And so if you're at a lecture, you're anywhere you're going to sit there, just turn your whole chair, because it's easier on your neck. And these seem like strange things, but because of Neo's ports, you're going to have the nerves on your one side of your neck telling your brain that they're tight here and they're loose here, and that ends up being a problem over a period of time. All right, so we get tall by using that Chinese finger trap. We get super tall, okay? Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is your pelvis. And this is really, this is another part where I get to look stupid. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to have you all do it. So you have a smaller element of looking stupid because you've got desks to hide you. But I'm going to look silly. So have you all stand up for me. Okay. The pelvis is the base of our spine. It's the bottom. So right here is the pelvis. So the whole spine sits on that foundation. And the angle of that foundation will determine how hard it is for us to hold ourselves upright. So what I'm going to have you do is put your thumb on your belly button, and then you're going to take your middle finger and put it down about 3 inches on the bone that's right there, your pubic bone. So put your finger right there. Now you're going to take your other hand and you're going to stick it right here. Okay, right on your called your sacrum. You're going to do that on yourself. Not on your neighbor. I know you guys are tight, but that's a different class. Okay. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to have our pelvis in the back drop down like a dog when they're in trouble. You've all seen puppies when they're in trouble. They kind of tuck their tail, right? We're going to do some tail tucking. Okay, so you feel what that feels like. Now you're going to tilt it the opposite direction, so you're going to get bootylicious. So you're going to stick that booty out. So that's why Beyonce is up there. You're going to get bootylicious, okay? Now you're going to do it again just so you kind of know what that sensation is and you can distinguish that. Good. And then now you're going to stick it back outwards. Now, as we are all sitting at chairs all day long with that C curve, which way do you think our pelvis is 80% of the day?
Tucked.
Yes, it's tail tucked. So if you've ever seen primates or you've seen dogs, what do they do one more time when they're in trouble? Or they're being submissive? What do they do with their pelvis? They tuck their tail. So if you're sitting like this and your tail is tucked, that is literally a classic sign of submission. And you're doing it 80% of your waking hours. So your brain is producing what kind of brain juice?
Bad stuff.
Yes, it's producing lower testosterone and higher stress hormones. Even for women, that is our risk-taking, our confidence hormone. So we don't want that from a physiological point of view because it's going to hurt your back, but also from a brain point of view and also how we appear to others. So first thing we're going to do is get bootylicious. So you're going to stick your booty out. So let's have you do that right now. Okay. Now you're going to get super tall. Okay, so you can do that Chinese finger trap, and you're gonna think about getting $1,000. The taller you can get. Good, John. You're gonna win. so tall. Yes, you do. You do. Okay, now the next thing is your shoulder. Yes. So you're gonna stand there, booty's out, and tall. Okay, so the next thing is your shoulders. So the shoulders as John showed us, this is a shoulder of fear, right? We're kind of trying to hide ourselves. We are hiding our vital organs. So a confident person who didn't have fear is going to have their shoulders, we go up, just do it one at a time. Go up with your right shoulder, back, and then pull it down. And then up, back, and down. Now the focus is on the down and slightly rolling your shoulders out. So in other words, you've probably seen some people that stand kind of like this, you know?
Wrestlers.
Wrestlers, yes. That's not sending good messages to their brain. So we want shoulders back and pulling down so that if you were holding some orbs in your hand, they wouldn't be pointing backwards, your orbs. Yes, but you want your orbs to laying down at the side, and so that they're facing the middle. Okay, just let them hang to the middle. And that's where the buckets come in. The buckets are, if you were carrying that yoke and you had buckets of water, it would be pulling you down, wouldn't it? That's the kind of sensation I want you to feel. And you should feel that right here at the lower part of your shoulder blade, that sensation of pulling it down, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna have you do right now is to put your chairs, move away from your chairs, put your chairs into the table, and we're gonna walk a little bit. And I want you to get a physical sensation of what this feels like, all right? So you're gonna get super tall. Oh shoot, I forgot to say the last thing. Bowling ball and the head. So your head weighs about the same as a bowling ball. So for every inch that it's forward, it doubles the weight on your back and shoulders, and that extends down into your low back. And people, how many of you seen an older person that's like this walking down the street? They're not going to be able to change that. They've morphed that way over the course of their life, but they actually will die earlier. Morbidity is higher the farther your head is forward. It's crazy, of all causes, because it's the human operating system. That's the way we're designed. When you're like this, it's a threat to the system. All right, so head back. And how you can think of that is you want your ear over your shoulder, okay? That's a neutral position. And you want to slightly tuck your chin. Not like that. You don't need to get a full double chin. But you don't want it up like that. How many of you ever saw Night at the Roxbury?
Yeah.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Remember how he was like going like that all the time with his chin? It's like, what's up? What's up? So it's not a very presence-oriented position. So you don't want your chin up. You want it slightly down and head pulled back. Okay, so now I want you to go into your normal postures right now. Just like hang like you normally would hang. Like you have no energy, you're just kind of like, that's just how you normally hang. Okay, so I want you to feel what that feels like, okay? Now what you're gonna do is what I call like, you know how the Transformers, they go, yeah, and there's suddenly something magical? All right, that's what we're gonna do here. You're gonna become Transformers. So you're gonna take your booty and stick it out, and then kind of pull it backwards so that the weight is on your heels, okay? All right, and now you're gonna pull yourself up. So you're gonna get super tall as you possibly can, and really feel that feeling. Now your shoulders are back and you're pulling them down, okay? And your chin is back, so you're holding your heads back. Okay, so now, this is what I call, and I got permission to say this, your badass pose, okay? Now, do you kind of feel a little badass right now compared to this? Like, your brain actually thinks you're badass, because this is the magic formula for that, is having your spine as long as it can be and you pulling your shoulders down. So now, I'm gonna have you stay in this position. I want you to close your eyes for just a moment. Everybody, close your eyes for just a moment. Now I want you to go back to a time where you felt super confident. You felt like you could control the world. Like you had maybe just did a great paper, you got an A, you just got chosen for something, your wife said yes. Something where you felt so powerful. I want you to raise your hand if you have a specific moment in time that you can see that. And I want you to see what you saw at that point. I want you to keep your eyes closed and visualize that. I want you to see what you saw then. And I want you to feel what you were feeling. You felt that power in your body. You were so happy and confident. Now I want you to pull yourself up even taller. I want you to turn that dial on confidence up even more. Drop those shoulders, pull them down, and get that feeling of confidence. Now what I'm going to have you do is open your eyes, and we're going to slowly do what I call the king and queen walk. We're going to walk around the room, and you're going to have this badass feeling right now. So feel that right now. So you're going to pull, we're going to walk like a school of fish. Come towards me, Jolene. All right, keep pulling your shoulders down. Stick your chest out a little bit. Get as tall as you can, and your body's going to forget this, so I want you to remember that. And we're going at this pace because that's how a king and queen walks, right? They don't walk like this. Everybody's waiting on them. So when you walk up to the stage to do your presentation, this is how I want you to walk. You're going to go a little faster than that, so let's go how you would walk. Okay, so you're going to walk like this. You're going to walk, though, by pulling those shoulders down and getting yourself as tall as you possibly can. So I want you to feel that belly. We're going to do it one more time. I want you to feel that belly pulling in. I want you to feel your shoulders pulling down. And that's the magic sauce to tell your brain that you are confident that you've got this. That you have this thing handled. Even if you don't think you do, this is telling your brain you do. So it's going to prime your brain to do an even better job on the stage. Now, when you are going to, and go ahead and have a seat. Now, when you're going to, I'm your chair, Brian. So when you're going to deliver a presentation for your boss or somebody else, another department, or you're walking into a room, I don't know, you guys probably don't have to do networking. Anytime that you want to get that feeling, or you've been sitting too long and you are not having any energy left, you stand up and go do 100 steps like that. It will trigger something completely different in your brain. But there are many parts to presence. This honestly is the most important part because that's what we look at and that's what you feel. All right,
So would you recommend, like before next week when you have your presentation, do a visualization before you get there?
Yes.
As seeing yourself walking in and seeing what you look like in that pose and seeing yourself sitting there, and seeing others that would be there with you and get the whole visual of what you would look like. So you are priming your brain to be able to do that before you ever do it.
And you're feeling it in your body, and you're getting that muscle memory that Rhonda talked about. So just as an aside, if you want to be happier, healthier, live longer, make more money, and by the way, you're much more attractive. Girls, didn't John look awesome when he was saying that? Honestly, you really are. You get the green and purple ball. When you stand up straight and you have that posture, it is an alpha posture. It is what we're attracted to because honestly, from a tribal standpoint, the person who holds himself that way, if it's a woman, she's going to be much better at carrying babies. And if it's a man, he's going to be able to get food for us much better. And we like to think that we are of the modern age, but there's a part of our brain that really associates how we hold ourselves with those attributes. And it's very important. It's also, as we talked about, it's more important for you than just the impression you make, because that is how you're stronger. That is how you will live longer. So think about those things. And I'm going to leave you with a quote. Thoreau said, "If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life he has imagined, he will meet with a success that is unexpected in common hours." Now, Thoreau did not say if one shuffles slouchingly in the direction of his dreams. He said if one advances confidently. So when you get up there next week, I want you to advance confidently onto that stage. You'll do a great job.
Yay, thank you. Thank you, some good stuff. All right, we're gonna have a whole different thing. We're gonna take a break and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna do a little bit more on the posture and positioning and all those kind of pieces. So we'll be putting stuff into practice. So take 10, come back a little after 11.
Have you read Blink?
Yes.
Yeah, I have. I just finished that a few days ago and I loved it. It was just so fascinating.
Well, all of this is put into perspective, isn't it?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, brain's human operating system, funny
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great book. I've recommended it so many times since
Yes.
I finished it a few weeks ago.